Do you feel like the ground underneath you is solid? What would it be like to look down on everybody else? Would you allow yourself to be alone or lost? Do you know what an edge feels like? Clogwyn Dorathi, black on black, the Black Cliff, the setting for some of the most daring climbs in mountain history. Silica-rich rhyolite, home to Johnny Dawes' Indian Face, E9, 6E, the inspiration for Black Rock, a multimedia performance that explores the extraordinary desire of humans to move through mountains, to scale vertical walls, and to seek new physical and intellectual heights. Black Rock is a collaboration born out of a simple question. How do you translate the heightened experience of climbing to an audience on the ground?
There's an extensive range of mountain cultural artifacts, film, music. Obviously, literature is one of the most established traditions in mountain culture, but strangely not in live performance, or at least not as ubiquitous as those other forms. What we're wanting to do with this project is really make the most of that lost opportunity and bring the live experience into mountain culture.
So we've got Johnny's line that he drew of the Indian Face climb up on Cloggy with chalk. So he did it at the bottom, looking up, a really quick sketch, partly by his memory and partly by what he was seeing. And so we're thinking about it as a structure, as a skeleton, as a score for the performance.
Black Rock explores the line of climbing, line and routes that people make through mountain landscapes, the topos that climbers call them, that outline how to climb a route. And we've explored that in performance by a central landscape really that defines a line, that provides our Indian Face route, and it provides a line up through space as well, as we use these speakers that position the sound as an ascent through space. So the language, the physical language for Black Rock, I think comes from a few sources. So I guess in a way I was trying to also find how the experience of climbing translates into dance. So I would say that one of them, the biggest and the main source for the language is the time we spent climbing, the experiences we had climbing, and the workshop we had with some climbers, and figuring out what we have in common with climbers as dancers.
Shifting weight. The other one. And right up against like this.
We were very clear that we didn't want to necessarily replicate climbing. So what was important for us as a team, for David and for me, was to really go further from the literal and to find a deeper and more universal meaning. Actually, for me, one of the things that really struck me from the research is the footing for climbing, and to me, it really made me think of almost the Baroque and 18th century court dances, and how the pathways of the feet are clearly marked, and that made me think of this sense of being very careful and very setting where your footing is. And then another part of the language also comes from what meaning we abstracted from the experience of climbing, and support, meditation, rest, being together or not being together, how much weight and trust you can give your partner, how much risk you can take. So all these things came into the mixing pot when we were creating the language vocabulary for Black Rock.
This is a slate quarry, a playground, a torture hall, a hammock. Your fingers must learn a new language here. Nothing will blur. The rock has a locked syntax. Be articulate. Know every angle.
But the slate is like HTML. It just tells you what to do, and that's that. The direction of working really is a lot like a beam. You stand within beams of grip.
Smear. Crimp. Palm the heart line, then the fake line to the blank rock face.
The evolution of the slate duet, I would say, started from this idea of creating a path, but then teaching somebody else a path or a route. So we found that that's something we share a lot with climbers as dancers, that we teach each other choreography, that we teach each other the route to follow in space when you're on stage, when you're dancing.
He entered a version of exquisite hell. The walls are mauve, black bruised, occasionally luminous with green moss. The material world shifted beneath his feet, and cracks daggered through the halls of slate. It was as if the coincidence of the earth had shifted 2 beats to the left, so that anything was possible.
And you come above a hole. If you checked out what direction that hole makes its grip most fully, that's a beam, which you can call radiant grip. You can see that in your mind's eye, even though you can't see it with the eyes of your head. You see it with the eye in your head. And you can put your foot on the end of that radiant grip, pull the light out, and you push down in the direction that beam was, and that hole is making the same amount of grip as it would do. You'd have noticed how to step on it best when you could see it. So as you're climbing, if you've made clear reckonings on how those holes work, you can see the grip on a route without any of the confusion of all the other detail. And so your body at some level to be told where the holes are.
Black rock uses a number of different materials, and I'm interested in the way that materials absorb us and captivate our attention. So that's the sound, the immersive sound design, and we're using 16 different channels. And it's about attentive listening. So we're listening for the subtleties in the landscape, the Caribbean eclipse, the train in the background, the wind blowing, and they come out of all these different areas of the performance space that's been spatially designed by our composer James Bully.
I've had experiences, climbing on the grit all day, and I have no fear of falling off at all. The ground does not feel hard and below. The rock feels like something supporting me, that's telling me what to do, and I'm not there anymore.
In addition to that, we have light that sort of surrounds the space, but also haze and wind that explore the air of performance and the conditions that the audience are in.
A mountain is a space to strike risk like a match, so it sparks the infinite in your marrow.
The poetic script for Black Rock probably comes from Snowdonia, but it also comes from geology and Arthurian myth, from Johnny Dawes, who's a climber who I think probably has poetic text very much in his bones or in his movement. I think we thought a lot about the provocation of a mountain, what it means to consider the metaphor of a summit, of a journey. So, really, I guess why we were also attracted to work on this project, I think, is because there's this phrase, everything means everything, and it does certainly feel like that when you're talking about mountains, that it is a very philosophical, although accessible, idea and metaphor for life.
The stones fall from grooves and land in your gullet. Feel the ridgeline sing as you hold it between your teeth. Today is the day. The rock waits against the air. It roars and dissolves as intentions silence and slices the rain cloth.
Long ago, he came to the cliff they call Clogwynderapig. The giant stood above a lake, which seemed to open the earth like a mouth. A tongue of golden sand stretched out to the black sky and black rock. Arthur washed his face in the pale water, saw the cliffs rise above his shoulders in the lake's surface, as if they grew from them, as if they were a part of him. The king unsheathed his sword and dipped it to the shaft in the lake. The edge of the blade and the arets above him began to sing.
The piece has become a reflective piece. I like to think about it more like a mindful experience. So it's a meditation on climbing. I'm interested in the philosophy of climbing and what it means to be on an edge, what it means to have the ground beneath us solid, and is it solid? And so I'd like the audience to sort of contemplate their self, and we're using climbing to do that. So the climbing's a conduit to thinking about larger significance, about what it means to be, to take risks and to be a path maker.
Although they are now dead, the giants open their heads here. The summits of their dreams. That lake, their last drink. In this light, the ground